I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values or feelings or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another Office Hours live stream. Hopefully you guys have had a good week. Got interesting things to talk about. But thank you for joining me. Welcome to Ghost Planet Max Inc. 1.0. Good to see you there first. Nathaniel Zalozball, great to see you there. Eldritch fan. Who's going to tell the prof about Zelda? What about Zelda? It's a Zelda movie that they've got coming up. He said, considering who they have helming it, it's a disaster. Who do they have helming it? Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't know. But you know what's sad about that is if you're talking about a animated film like in the shared universe of the Mario movie, you're going to have people go see it and support it no matter what, because they've already just knocked my computer. They've already linked their reputations to defending the Mario movie as it's the greatest thing ever, you know. So they're gonna pretend that Zelda is wonderful too. Sadly, stunning and brave Megatron says, I can't tell what has more soul, AI art or Brie Larson's acting. Fair enough. Fair enough. Eldritch fan, thank you so much for the super chat. It says, don't review these movies. Review the people who review these movies. I have no interest watching. I don't even bother to click on the screaming reviews. I don't blame you, sir. And don't worry, this is not a review of the movie. Who in their right mind goes to see this movie? I've already seen some of the usual talking heads on YouTube doing their reviews. You can't even make the argument this time that I'm taking the bullet for you guys. I'm going to see it so you don't have to. Nobody in their right mind wants to go see this movie. The only people who want to go see this movie are those who have already made the decision to like it. And your review is not going to do anything for them. So it's straight up just clickbait. Anybody who's doing reviews of this movie and going to see it so they can tell you about it, you know, it's what I've always talked about. People who are seeking out reviews of this movie. Why? This certainly isn't a review of this movie. Actually, I've got something pretty specific I want to talk about, but I want to use the movie as an example, and not just this movie, but the phenomena that we see this movie as a great example of. But yeah, good point there, Eldritch fan. Welcome, Leia Plus Size and Astro Squirrel. Yep, all of the usual channels are throwing money at Disney just to trash a film we already knew would be bad. They never learned. Exactly. And, you know, sadly, we can only blame the channels, but so much because they wouldn't be doing it if people didn't flock to them and give them those clicks and want to hear them trash talk the movie that they know is already going to be trash, but they got to have that drama. They got to have that, you know, sense of community and stuff. So, yeah. Darth Enigma, welcome. Private Eye in Retrospectiva, Studio Super, great to see you. Final Fantasy fan, great to see everybody here. Mr. D-Man said, everybody's acting like the Equalizer is John Wick. They don't know it's based on an old TV show. Yeah, I don't know much about the Equalizer. I heard a little bit about it, but don't know much about that. Spidey Rules was in the middle of rewatching Ben 10 Secret of the Omnitrix. I need to watch Ben 10. It's one of those shows that I just never got into, not because I didn't want to. I liked the premise, but I think it was just when it came out, I forgot what year it came out, young adult doing things, busy, you know. Um, but I need to check it out at some point. People have been saying it's good. Um, Owen Lister, thanks for showing up. Said, hello, Prof. I just got done watching Lady Hawk for the first time and loved it because one of my favorite fantasy movies of the 80s. Yeah, Lady Hawk is wonderful. Not only does it have stellar cast and it's a wonderful story. I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer, Rucker Hauer, Matthew Broderick, and others too. I forget some of the rounded out characters that were really great in that. But it's Richard Donner, and Richard Donner is just like I compare him to like a Howard Hawks from previous generations, in that he can do just about any genre. I mean, think about what that man's directed. He's directed Superman, the movie. Of course, we know him and love him from primarily. So superhero, Lady Hawk, straight up fantasy, The Goonies, which is a child, like a family friendly movie, The Omen, straight up horror, Buddy Cop, Lethal Weapon. I mean, the man's just done everything. He's really worked in every genre. He was just God rest his soul. He was incredibly talented, and his movies deserve more. He deserves more credit for a wonderful director, just a wonderful filmmaker in general. Of course, we give him credit, for the Superman movie, but I think in circles of just good filmmakers in general, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves, because I think most people kind of think he's just sort of fluff. I mean, not so much. They like his movies, but I don't know why he doesn't get some of the same credit that like a Steven Spielberg does, because he certainly 100% is deserving of it, I would think. Anyway, welcome Andre Hernandez. Got more folks in here. My dear sound engraver, great to see you there. My dear wife sound engraver, who's now in the same home as me. Just wonderful. Still getting used to that, but it's a good thing. Pie Guy 07, Hussein, stress levels. Great to see everybody here. I could just go on and on and on and on welcoming, but I won't. So glad to have everyone here. Just checking into there's another super chat here. I'll get to this before I jump into my comment here, or my topic. But Leia Plus Size did say, what is the difference between the Marvels and the Barbie movie? Great point. I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, they stay away from the Marvel but give money to Barbie. I thought about that just the other day. I thought, every single one of these channels that tried to say Barbie's pretty good, it's just not made for us. It's made for women, it's fine, it's okay. Every single one of those channels, if they have any integrity at all, would be saying the exact same thing about the Marvels. It was just, again, for whatever reason, it was just sort of acceptable to kind of give Barbie a pass. That was kind of the status quo, that's what you needed to do. I mean, you didn't get quite as much sanctions against you as a channel for speaking out against Barbie as you would for, say, something like Spider-Man No Way Home. But yeah, that was just one of those things. It was ridiculous why people give Barbie a pass. I'll never understand that. All of the success from Barbie just paved the way for that woman to ruin the Chronicles of Narnia, which she's doing now. And I can't wait for all the channels that just gave Barbie a pass to start, bringing their critique against, Chronicles of Narnia. I'm like, you did that, But yeah, for this movie, like, what's the difference? You could say the exact same thing they said about Barbie about the Marvels. Well, it wasn't made for you. It's made for women, or it's made for this kind of woman, or, hey, whatever. It's, it's just, drives me crazy. Where is the Studio Super? Thank you for the $9.99 super chat. Much appreciated. It says, when it fails and they blame men for it, I got one of two responses when they say men destroyed it. I don't care. One, I don't care. I refuse to let you make it my problem nor my fault. And two, and don't you forget it. I like that. I'll never forget when the Harley Quinn movie came out, or even the Ghostbusters 2016, and feminists everywhere tried to blame men for not going to see this movie. And I'll never forget, there's that one, I guess it was a TikToker. I think I saw the short on Twitter at the time, where the woman was trying to, and she didn't even say anything on the video, but it was a caption. It was like, how angry I am that men aren't allowing Birds of Prey to be a popular film, meaning that they won't come buy their ticket and they won't give it the ratings that it deserves or whatever. And the video was already set. The phone was already running in her car, and she opens the door and like she's like as though she was getting in the car after having seen the movie in the theater, and she opens the door and she sits down and she's like, just doing making those faces into the camera and slamming the door. And I'm like, that do people not really, you not think we realize you set that up? That was scripted. You had to have the camera rolling, get in your car first, set the camera going, then get back out of your car, and then get in the car so we can see how mad you were when you jumped in the car. It's just, oh, this weird TikTok generation that we live in. It's so bizarre. So bizarre. Andre said, "How dare you insult them, prof?" I know. That's what they're going to say to me. Oh, and Lister, yeah, Richard Donner style suited the fantasy genre. It really did. I mean, you can see a lot of that. I mean, Goonies was fantasy, but set in modern day. Really good stuff. I'm not going to mention the channel name that you said, but you said that you watched somebody's review of it, and it's not uber woke, but it's not good either. I don't understand that either. And again, I'll get to my main topic here in a second, but it's still about the movie. This there's this sense of and I haven't seen the review you're talking about because I just don't bother watching these reviews, but there's this sense of false piety when somebody reviews a movie that's crap and everybody knows it's crap, and they try to say, I watched it and it wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't great. It wasn't anything great, but it's almost like a nonconformist thing. Like, I'm more open-minded than the average person, and I'm going to come out here and tell you the truth about it, and they're not saying it's good, so they can't quite, face that kind of backlash, but they're just pretending that, I watched it, this and that. Like I've heard people say that about Ghostbusters 2016. It wasn't a bad movie. I mean, don't believe all the hype. Is it great? No, but it's not. It's almost like you think you're being original with that. I mean, is it great? No, but it's not bad. That's just the most laziest review. Yeah. Kimberly Goff, welcome. I haven't seen you here before. Says, speaking of Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, how do you even go about fixing that character after all the awful comics films? Any thoughts? That's a good point. I mean, I don't. I love the original Carol Danvers in the comics. I had her in the thumbnail there. Love the original Carol Danvers, right up through blanking on his name right now. Who's the Apes and Babes guy? Frank Cho, right up through Frank Cho's kind of re-envisioning of her. I really like that era too. Like her as a character, like her as and I don't think there was anything. There was nothing too derivative of Green Lantern for her to get her powers from Marvel and all that. That was not any more. That was not in any way too derivative of Green Lantern than Iron Man was of Batman. Oh, another billionaire uses his money in tech, to be a, how come that got a pass? But the writers for the original Captain Marvel movie are like, we have to change it up because she otherwise it's too much like Green Lantern. That was their excuse to change it up and make it more of a feminist platform. But there's nothing wrong with doing it the way she was originally. I love her story as told in the Marvel series, the animated series before Disney brought out Marvel. I think it was Marvel's or the Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes, I think. I know some of the different series have been out there, and I might be getting the name slightly wrong, but it's the one that was done before Disney bought, the one that Disney quashed, just totally put an end to. And it was a great series, really great series. And you got a really cool origin on screen, animated screen anyway, of Carol Danvers' origins as a hero, through Sword and all of that. So that was pretty good. The original Kree Marvel deserves more respect. I know Rob's movie collection. Again, I keep shouting him out. You really should check his channel out. Let me, I meant to throw his link out the other day, because he's just got a great channel. He did a lot of great Halloween videos and all that kind of stuff, but I forgot to throw the link out. So let me see if I can find the channel right here. There he is. I'm gonna throw the link out here, and then I'll say what he was saying. But yeah, he was saying how hard is it to do. I mean, it's really from the comics. It straight up writes itself. Here's a link to his channel. You should definitely check him out. He just great. Talks about movies, loves movies. Does a lot of videos about movie hauls. You know, when he goes shopping and goes for some finds and whatnot. And he does really cool videos about his favorite top 10 lists and stuff like that. Really fun channel. Just a good nostalgia channel. And you get a lot of cool. If you're like me, you haven't seen some of the stuff he talks about, so you get a lot of cool recommendations. But definitely check his channel out. Throw him a subscription. He deserves it. But yeah, he was saying how hard is it to do some good, real Marvel films. You do part one with Marvel, the Kree Marvel. He was Captain Marvel. He was the original Captain Marvel. In terms of the Marvel universe. And then Carol Danvers was Miss Marvel, of course. And I think it was like he said something like movie 2, bring in her or something like that, or pass them, give her powers or pass the mantle or something like that. Somehow in terms of the Marvel, Miss Marvel mantle. So it was yeah. I mean, it's easy to do. It would be very easy to do. So let me go ahead and because what I'm saying now, I can kind of come back to this and build on it. My topic, I excuse me, I talked about in a video a while ago. It was during a live stream, and I cut it out as its own video, like I'm going to do this as well. And I talked about how boys are afraid to be men. And I talked about how our culture, for one thing, just doesn't want to even remotely celebrate manhood, and men is something that you should strive to be. And I was pointing out a lot of things, for example, any kind of real masculinity is toxic masculinity, and this kind of super beta male, simp kind of thing. Just shut up and listen to how bad you are as a man. That's the only uh, existence a male is tolerated, in the woke world or the progressive ideologue world. And I said, even look at women look at men who try to trans into women. Men who try to pretend that they're women. They want to celebrate womanhood and celebrate, their femininity and all that kind of stuff. But you don't see that from women who want to trans and be men. They're confused about their own things, but they're not like celebrating masculinity. So it's our culture is very much anti-masculine right now, and so much to the fact, and that I pointed out how boys are just our culture is emasculating them and infantilizing them, not wanting them to be men. And you've got a lot of boys who react against it, but in a lot of ways refuse to grow up and take on the responsibility of manhood. What is real authentic masculinity is protecting, using your power and strength to serve and protect others. And our culture is definitely not one that would encourage selflessness in any way right now. It's really sad and tragic, but that's the case. The same thing can be said of women in our culture right now. Girls are dissuaded from wanting to grow up and be women, real women, like authentic womanhood. And what is authentic womanhood? I mean, if I said that, when I was describing authentic masculinity is serving, using your power and strength to protect others, I said it's basically fatherhood. Now, not that everybody has to be a father, plenty of authentic men, aren't fathers or can't be fathers or will never be fathers or whatever because of whatever reason. But it's still that fatherhood aspect of protecting, using your strength to protect, you can have that no matter whether you're actual father or not. And it's the same thing for women. The authentic, feminine genius is motherhood. And again, maybe you're not an actual mother. Maybe you'll never be an actual mother in terms of raising a child, but you still have that feminine genius, that compassion, that nurturing, that care. And there are a lot of different ways to be that. It doesn't mean that you have to be all saccharine and sweet Mrs. Johnson from next door, for that to happen. There's a lot of different styles and ways of mothering that we've seen in our mythology, that we've seen, a lot. I mean, you've got everybody from Ma Kent to Sarah Connor. I mean, there are a lot of different ways of authentic womanhood, authentic, femininity out there, and in authentic motherhood, even. So that's what it is. But our culture 100% dissuades that. Our culture, and especially the feminist movement hates motherhood, hates motherhood. Now it'll still claim it does, and it'll say, no, mothers need to teach their kids the right things, blah, blah, blah. No, authentic womanhood, authentic motherhood, like authentic masculinity, is self-giving. It's saying no to yourself. It's saying, I'm going to give of myself. I'm going to be selfless. I'm not going to think, what's good for me? What's good for me and my development? What's good for my family? Gasp! Dare a woman, put her family before herself in today's day and age? Oh, that can't have that at all. So what do you get? You get these like cookie cutter woke characters in mythology, because these are the kind of people that the progressive ideologues want to be, especially the women, and think that all women should be. And they pride themselves in this nonsense. And they say, well, we just, oh no, we couldn't be mothers. We like to be aunties. We're aunties. That kind of thing right there is enough to drive you wild. That concept right there. Oh no, we like being aunties. Now, there's nothing wrong with being an aunt. And if you're an auntie, God bless you, do well for your nieces and nephews. But that kind of sentiment that, oh, I can never be a mother, but I want to be an auntie. That's saying I want access to kids whenever they can make me feel good, or I can look good having kids around, but I don't want the responsibility of motherhood. Oh my gosh, then I couldn't pursue my dreams. Then I couldn't pursue everything that I want, me, 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 me. That's what the auntie narrative is. And you see a lot of these female characters, and they're all the same kind of cookie cutter character. Like I said, they're all about how OMG so random I am. Look how cutesy we are. This kind of nonsense, and that's what you see from the Marvels all through it. Again, I haven't seen it, not going to see it, but you can see it just from the previews, the trailers. It was certainly the Miss Marvel Kamala Khan nonsense. I saw a clip of it when and I don't even care about the movie, but something happens and they're all kind of linked or whatever, and Kamala Khan's like, we're a team. It was just like nails on a chalkboard, so grating. But that's the kind of thing that they think is oh so cute. Look at us being so funny and random and cute. Uh, we've heard about, even before the film came out, that people were saying that the humor just falls flat. It certainly fell flat in the trailers and whatnot as well. So let the spotlight be on me. Even their heroism isn't really self-giving. It's kind of, because they have to do this for their good. The idea of being, especially for a woman, certainly for a man, but especially for a woman, the idea of being an authentic, of exuding authentic motherhood. Again, whether you're an actual mother or not, exuding authentic motherhood, authentic femininity of caring and nurturing and giving of yourself for others. That's the feminists hate that. They despise that. And you'll find them, of course, trying to argue differently. But no, the proof is in the pudding. Look at their deeds, not their words. That's where you see the truth. Got some. I got another couple elements to that topic too. But let me get these super chats before I get too far behind on them. Dr. Y for $5. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate that. Says, to be honest, the longest time, the only Captain Marvel I knew about was DC's. I didn't know Marvel had a Captain Marvel until Carol Danvers debuted. I was in the same boat. I did know about it before the movie and everything, but I was more of a DC person growing up. Yeah, so Captain Marvel to me was Billy Batson. I never enjoyed this Shazam thing. I know why, rights wise and stuff, but he was Captain Marvel long before Marvel decided to copyright that name. So yeah, it took me a while later to get into it, but I did, like I said, with Avengers, Earth Mightiest Heroes, and so forth. Eldridge fan said, until they need people to die in their wars. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Women want to be equal, and they should be able to do everything a man does, except be like a garbage man, because that's icky. Except go to war and die because, And I know there are a lot of women in the military. I don't really have a problem with that. I think women can't have the same roles as men, or can't effectively do the same roles as men in the military. But yeah, it's a whole other thing. Studio Super 999, thank you very much, says they tell masculine men to F off. They do, then turn around and blame them when something terrible happens, asking, where are the good men gone? They'll blame everything but themselves. That's an interesting concept, because you see that a lot from a lot of sources on social media and whatnot. A lot of individuals who describe themselves as very feminist, and no man needs to hold the door open for them or so forth, that kind of type, even if they're not really onto that one specific uh, point. But then you'll also hear them talk about, gosh, where are all the attractive men gone, or where are all the assertive men gone, or this and that. Out of one side of their mouth, they're talking about how, oh, that's toxic masculinity. On the other side of their mouth, that's the only thing that really attracts them. Toxic. It's just a man being a man, assertive and confident, and that kind of thing. I'm not talking about abusive or aggressive necessarily. Sound engraver for $2, my dear wife. Thank you. Feminism hates women. Amen. 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 That's so true. And never let anybody try and convince you otherwise. People try to. I haven't heard it so much anymore, but there used to be this movement about a defense of feminism. And anytime you dared critique feminism, it was, look, do you think women should be equal to men? Do you think we should be treated equally? Then congratulations, you're a feminist. And that is the most insincere piece of BS you could ever. There was even a whole ad campaign, I think, television commercials that did that. That's not how language works, Cupcake. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. That's like saying, look, do you believe in Jesus? Well, then you're a Christian. Congratulations. That's so not even remotely the case. You can believe that Jesus existed and believe all number of manner of things with him. It doesn't necessarily make you a Christian, you know. And even when you acknowledge that and you try to start to parse that down, I use this for my classes as well. I say, you can't. For those of my students who want to get into feminist theory or want to write papers from feminist theory, I'm like, hey, that's fine. I'm going to help you write it well, though. You can't just use the term feminist, because feminist, it's almost like the term Christian, in that if someone says I'm a Christian, you still don't really know anything about them, because how many thousands of different flavors are there, disparate from each other? How many different aspects of Christianity are there? Um, you think about denominations, but not even just that. I mean, okay, well, Catholic or Protestant. Okay, well, the Protestant. Okay, well, still in Protestant, that the Baskin Robin of flavors and beliefs. Are they more Calvinist? Because that's a whole specific thing. Are they more Armenian or Molinist or whatever? It's just totally different. Um, to the point where we're even and it's by definition it works, right? Somebody like if you say, okay, well, they're Protestant Christians, okay, well, that could put two people, let's say a Mormon and a Southern Baptist. Those two don't share much at all when it comes to specific doctrine, right? And just, we need to be specific with our, they can both claim the name of Christian, sure, but they also believe different things about the deity of Christ and so forth, and different, individual doctrines and whatnot. Same as difference as a Southern Baptist and a Methodist and so forth. And the same thing is true with feminism. And I think it's a fun thing to do is when you get, if a bunch of feminists come after you, start talking about specifics, because pretty soon they start trying to eat their own. They'll start fighting over each other, and it's not even just as clear cut as like first, second, and third wave feminism. We're even far beyond that now. We're so far beyond that to where you've got a lot of people, gender theorists, don't even like the term feminism anymore, but will still sort of claim it. It's absurd how they try to fight with a united front, but you get to any kind of specifics and they'll eat their own in a heartbeat. So never let them pull this garbage on you that well, look, hey, what's wrong with feminism? Feminism is just about, equal rights. What's wrong with that? Are you a monster and don't believe in that? Define equal rights. As a male and female have equal worth? Absolutely. Should one be enslaved to the other? Not in any way. But they're different, and they're better at certain things than the other. They're different roles they can flourish in. It's just a matter of truth. Anyway, I think I got another super chat here before I missed it there. Studio Super, thank you, sir. Said, I have a side character whose mom died giving birth to her brother. So growing up, she becomes like a second mother to her brother and loves being a mother. It even motivates her to be a superhero too. Yeah, real authentic heroines, super heroines. The archetype of the heroine, which is a specific thing. Not necessarily every female superhero is a heroine. A heroine is a specific archetype when I'm speaking about it in this manner. But like a Wonder Woman, like heck, even like a Black Widow, there's an authentic motherhood aspect to these characters, and they're not even real mothers, in terms of like biological mothers are not even necessarily raising a child, but they have this aspect of motherhood, this aspect of nurturing and care that's that's essential, to the heroine archetype anyway. So yeah, it's a really great aspect for characters. I've been in classes with when I was getting my master's degree in English at a state university, so liberals packed in the class. What were we reading? We were reading It was actually a class on science fiction, which I thought was going to be interesting, but it wasn't. It was just about how can we use the science fiction to further our different political agendas. Ridiculous garbage. And we read Neuromancer. Johnny Mnemonic is a short story that what's his name? I'm blanking on the author's name. Wrote, and then Neuromancer is kind of a continuation of that. So really cool cyberpunk, And we were talking about the treatment of the characters and whatnot. And I remember one girl's like, "But I read that this main girl character in the book later on she goes on to have a child." And I'm just like, "Oh, really? A mother again? Like that's all we can do with our female characters?" Like, I'm sorry, that's all you can do with your female characters? Create another human being with your own body and nurture it with your own. That's pretty freaking amazing, and that's pretty awesome to do with a female character. And it's also essential to make a good, valid, authentic feminine character, whether or not they actually have the child or actually raise the child, but have that aspect of motherhood to their femininity. 100%, 100% necessary. All right, I think I'm caught up there with the super chats. Yeah, okay. The other aspect of this is if one of the things we talked about before too is the portrayal of heroines, of women in modern media, comic book superheroes in particular. The movement to, we can't show them in any way that accentuates their form because that's sexist, and you look at the modern day Marvel, you look at modern day representations of Carol Danvers to when she first came out. Look at that image on my thumbnail there when I had the original Captain Marvel costume, and she's gone through a couple of different costumes, but all the way to Frank Cho. Now, yes, you can have versions of that costume that are sexualized, but the costumes itself were never innately sexualized. Like, oh no, you saw her navel. Oh, but that's so unrealistic. How could why wouldn't she cover that part of her body if she's going to fight crime? Because it's a comic book. It's not supposed to be realism. It's supposed to be visually significant. And when you augment or what's the word I'm looking for? When you accentuate different types of a woman's body or a male's body, it tells you certain things about their character. And as I've said before, motherhood is at the core of femininity, just as fatherhood's at the core of masculinity. And babies are birthed between the hips and nursed at the breast. So it is absolutely necessary. That's just the way the visual iconography works in comic book superheroes, to have a somewhat accentuated or somewhat, I don't want to say displayed because I'm not talking about like uncovered or anything, but costumes that do play up the feminine nature of the woman, either accentuate the breasts or hips. And I'm not saying that they have to be huge breasted or anything like that, but that's just part of the visual symbolism of it. That original costume with Carol Danvers, Miss Marvel, was great too, because it had the open stomach, not in a suggestive sexual way or anything. It didn't go down so low or anything, but it was just, what was on display there was the womb area, not that she's a mother or anything like that, but again, just that aspect of motherhood being linked to the feminine character. So you're going to show this character is feminine. You want to obviously accentuate those things. Obviously, same thing in a male. A strong man has to have broad shoulders, a narrower waist. I mean, that's not how actual every man looks around the world. We obviously know that every woman doesn't look like women in comic books. That's not the point. Comic books are not supposed to represent the reality around us and all of the body types and all of the everything. No, that's absurd. This is a visual medium. We should be working with visual cues and symbolism. And they try to change that. Well, we need to change the symbolism because that's all culturally constructed. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's been there since the dawn of art history. You can go look at that. You can look at, it's going to be somewhat differently visually represented culture to culture. You've got the Venus of Willendorf, or compared to, a Renaissance Botticelli or whatever, and you're going to have different proportions and whatnot, but you're still going to see accents on the breasts and hips because that is femininity, So they'll try to, we're changing the imagery and it doesn't work. Marvel comics are disgusting to look at today. They're just gross. Like all of the characters look like sort of androgynous little, the art's disgusting, but the character designs too is like, you can't even tell anything about a character by looking at them. You can hardly tell the characters apart. Iron Man has the exact same physique as Carol Danvers, in a modern Marvel comic book. It's nonsense. It's gross. So they don't. So they'll use that kind of excuse. They'll use, well, we're trying not to sexualize these characters anymore because that's sexist or whatever, and they'll try to pretend that any sort of uh, visual depiction that accentuates the woman's body is sexist or sexualization, and it's not. As I've said many times, there is a difference between sexualization and idealization. Idealization should very much be at play in any comic book medium, because it's a visual medium, that's necessary to cue readers different things about these characters. And again, you can contextualize that in different ways. It doesn't mean every character has to be huge and busty or whatever, but you don't make them look like tube worms like Marvel does these days. It's ridiculous. All right, got a few more super chats coming in here. Let me make sure I don't get behind on these. Owen Lister, thank you very much for $9.99. So I have two female characters from my fantasy Western story. One who is a marshal, is a classic tomboy, and the other is more feminine and even has a crush on one of my male characters. Yeah, and that's, when you talk about authentic femininity, again, it's not saying that, well, if you don't dream of being married and a housewife, you're not a real woman. No, of course not. I mean, the tomboys can be perfectly authentically feminine. It doesn't mean that you have to be into Barbie dolls and dresses or whatever, but it does mean that you really embrace that feminine genius, which is your unique gifts toward motherhood, whether it's you being an actual mother or not. Same thing with men. It's the unique gifts that you have as a man, leaning towards fatherhood. Protect, serve and protect, be a man, take care of the people around you. But yeah, good examples there, good differences. That's fantasy westerns are cool. We need to have more fantasy westerns. They're really great. When done well, but I'm glad you're doing that. Hopefully you'll put something out with that soon. Studio Super for $9.99. How I describe my side character. She is a bit cathartic motivational, is how I heard you describe not Wonder Woman in one of the videos. She's everyone's big sister. She has a very nurturing and caring personality. So you might be mistaking a little bit. Wonder Woman, I think, is aspirational, not cathartic motivational. But you might be taking like catharsis, compassion and whatnot. I think we just got mixed up on the terms there. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. She's everyone's big sister. She has a very nurturing and caring personality. Yeah, definitely. Oh, good question here before I get to the other super chat. I see Comic Skater here. This is a good question. Why are so many heroes orphans? Superman, Luke, Harry Potter. It is a classic way to contextualize the hero and the hero's journey. And one of those reasons is because a hero is fighting to reclaim, especially a male hero is always going to be fighting to reclaim the metaphorical mother in his life. So, I've talked about Superman, how Superman the movie was a great example of this, even though Clark wasn't an orphan in terms of he had Mom and Pa Kent, even though obviously Jor-El and Laura had died. But they're trying to reclaim the metaphorical mother, which is the caring, nurturing, unconditional love, the world that they want to bring about. So it's easy and it's commonly done, and it's a good thing, for a lot of characters to be orphans in some way and try to fight to reclaim that, never having really known, knowing it exists, but never really knowing what that is, how that feels. So trying to reclaim that sort of nurturing, caring, unconditional love for the world. That's why they go out and fight for people and fight for the innocent. So it's a common, you don't have to be an orphan, but it's common. People talk about another slight way of another slight variant to that question is when people talk about Disney princesses. For the longest time, Disney princesses didn't have mothers. The mother dies at some point. And they're like, oh, that's such a trope. It's like, no, it's a really interesting, it doesn't have to be like that. You can have a great character, female character whose mother didn't die. You don't necessarily need to have it happen, but it's a really cool thing to show that they're trying to now reclaim and figure out how to be the mother that they never had, right? How to be the feminine that they never had that was robbed from them. Cinderella is a great example of that. The classic Cinderella Disney, film, just talking about, when her mother dies, her all of her unconditional love, because her father gives her that, but her father's not going to be around forever. So she's left with the horrible, the tyrannical mother, Lady Tremaine. And what is she forced to do? She's forced to kind of mother them, take on the tasks of cooking and cleaning and taking care of them, but in a tyrannical way. At least they're making her do that and that. But she never loses her authentic femininity and her authentic motherhood within her. Never loses her love, never becomes bitter, never becomes defeated by that. And as a result, who saves the day for her? Her fairy godmother, So it's these stories are coded, and they're very deep. We can get into it a lot, but I got more super chats to get to. So it's a good point there. I'm glad I saw your comment there, Comic Skater. Eldritch fan, thank you, sir. Said original Endgame script: Black Widow devoted herself to caring for kids orphaned by the Snap, but they gave her Cap's role instead and put him in therapy. I did not know that. I did not know that. That's interesting. I hate Endgame. I absolutely hate Endgame. I love seeing Cap. I thought that was so cool seeing him wield Mjolnir, of course, but everything else about that movie just stunk. It was awful. And you're right. They had to make Black Widow be the head of the Avengers. And I don't know, was Captain America, I don't remember. I watched it once and I'll never watch it again because I thought it was such a garbage film. I liked elements of it at first, and it took me a while to just realize, no, even those elements don't save it. It's just garbage. But I don't think he was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Captain America was in therapy. I thought he was there, like, trying to facilitate the therapy for others. But still, your point stands, even if I'm right there, in that, that's more of the, let's facilitate our feelings. Let's help, not that a man can't do that by any means. And you might make the argument that, hey, that's what he found Falcon doing when he first met him. So maybe he's kind of honoring his friend, the loss of his friend, by doing this or that. You can make an argument for it. But I think it's very telling what you said there. I did not know that Black Widow was caring for the orphan kids, and we can't have that. That's too motherly, and that's so problematic. That's so whatever, Yeah. Samuel Proctor, good to see you there. So I have a question on the name Cathartic Motivational. Why have the descriptor motivational after? Why not just cathartic? The character one would assume aspirational is also. That's a really good question, Samuel. I'm so glad you asked that. And there's a very specific reason. I chose that terminology very carefully, and I'm glad you gave me a chance to explain that. And yeah, a lot of my students too, they'll just kind of shorthand it, cathartic characters. Like, no. A cathartic character is like Hamlet. A cathartic character is there to show you what not to do, to show you the ways, real catharsis, especially like in Greek terms and tragedy and whatnot, is you see the imbalance of emotions in a character, or the imbalance of their imbalance of values, their hubris. You see something like that in a character, and you're supposed to go ahead and experience that with the character, experience those emotions, and it's a purgative factor. It purges you of carrying those emotions in an unbalanced way by seeing that character do it. So you can watch a really great rendition of Hamlet, and you can feel really sorry for Hamlet. His father was killed by his uncle. His uncle marries his mother, but the ghost of his father appears to him and tells him, this happened, and it's up to you, my son, as the prince of the, you are the one to rectify this. And you can empathize with Hamlet and say, yeah, that would be hard, though. I mean, a ghost told you this. You can imagine all the ways you'd second guess that. But it becomes so evident throughout the movie that Hamlet knows he has to do this thing. He knows he's been called to do a task, to do a heroic task, to save the kingdom, to save his family, to save his mother, to right the wrong. And he refuses to do it. He lets his self-doubt get in the way. He constantly, and because he second guesses himself at every point, more and more people die as that play goes on, until the end of the play, the entire stage is just littered with corpses, including his own. He dies at the end. Spoiler for Hamlet, but you should know Hamlet. Like, everybody just pretty much dies at the end of that play, all because he didn't get off his butt and be a hero and do the thing that he knew he needed to do. He second guessed himself. He self-doubted. He was sad. He was whiny. He was mopey. And I use this example from Man of Steel. Man of Steel's problem was not that it made Superman cathartic motivational. It didn't even make him cathartic motivational. It made him straight up cathartic. Superman really was Hamlet. I call him emo Hamlet in that movie. That's why it was just insanely wrong take on Superman, because as we mentioned before on one of my last streams, they use sympathy alone to try and get you to engage with a character. And think about all the people that die and all the people that are constantly in danger because he just doesn't step up. He's, but I don't know. My dad said I shouldn't be a hero, and I don't know. Shut up. You're a hero. So cathartic motivational then is somebody like Spider-Man, my perfect example. But there are others too, but he's just the perfect example because Spider-Man screws up, and Spider-Man got those powers and didn't automatically decide that he needed to be a hero, that he needed to be selfless with those powers. He has that moment when he gets those powers that he thinks, you know what? Screw this. I'm tired of getting a raw hand in life. I've got all these things that happen. So I'm going to use these powers to get some money, whether it's for Aunt May or to get a cool car or whatever, however the specific story depicts it. And he has to learn. He has to learn, when Uncle Ben, dies and he could have stopped it or whatever. He could have stopped the guy that did it. He has to learn, and he doesn't go around moping and saying, "Oh, woe is me. My uncle's dead because of me. Oh, I shouldn't. No, I'm not worthy of being a hero." That's just stupid catharsis taken to the nth degree. But he's motivational because you get a little bit of that catharsis, and then he dusts himself up, picks himself off the ground, gets off his butt and becomes a hero, does heroism. And he's a great example of that because good Spider-Man stories will still have him continuously, mess up here or there or fall into some self-doubt, sure, but he never lets it impede his heroism. And that's the motivational part that I talk about. So I'm really glad you asked that question because it's a great way to you know, oh, so you said still have just plain aspirational and no motivational description. Yeah, aspirational. See, and that's the difference, right? Aspirational is not just motivational. Yes, aspirational characters do motivate you to be better, but you need to do more than be motivated by an aspirational hero. You need to aspire to be like them. Totally different, totally new thing. So it's just that up to the nth degree. So you can be motivated by cathartic motivational heroes, but you want to aspire to be just like. And you might think, oh, well, that's semantics because somebody might want to aspire to be like Spider-Man. Sure, but you don't want to aspire to make the same mistakes that Spider-Man made. You might want to aspire to be the kind of person that can, pick yourself up off the ground, dust yourself off, and do better after your mistakes. But you don't want to aspire to be just like him and making his mistakes too, right? Even though it's unrealistic, the aspirational ideal is somebody that in a perfect world, you would want to be totally like He-Man. You would want to be totally like Steve Rogers. You can't, but that's the standard that you want to strive for anyway. But really glad you asked that question. That's such a distinction that needs to be made again and again every so often. I find with my channel a lot, I in my scholarship a lot too, in my classes that I teach as well. I did this scholarship and, I've written about it and we've, I've taught it and we move on and we keep using these terms, but, I forget that people jump on board at all these different uh, stages along the journey. So they don't necessarily know about the origins or the stages of an origins character, a power empowerment, call to action and so forth. They need to, it's good to go back and give some rudimentary definitions every now and then. All right. Need another little diet soda. Talking. My mouth's dry here. Let's see. I see Spidey Rule says, unfortunately, he's no longer a hero. Cough. Joe Quesada. Cough. Dan Slott. Cough. Zeb Wells. Yeah. Yeah. Who reads a modern Spider-Man comic? Like, why? That's just trash. Where to leave off? One listener said, my fantasy Western is called Embers of Retribution. It's a combination of shonen-style manga, interesting, like Trigun, and DBZ and Westerns like the Dollars Trilogy and Django. I do love science fiction Westerns. That's Westerns is at the heart of good science fiction anyway, in terms of, like the classic Star Trek series, Wagon Train in Space. And, it's the same aspect. And you got things like Star Wars, to a certain degree was supposed to be sort of a rough and tumble, the cantina, on Mos Eisley is very much just like, the tavern, in a Western, frontier land or whatever. Serenity, Firefly. I mean, that's very Western, I think there's something about Western and science fiction that goes so well together. And Trigun was wonderful. I love that, the way that blended it. Definitely. Yeah, I agree, Comic Skater. In-game is a dumpster fire with some occasional trash bags of spice that catch the fire and smell nice in the midst. That's a good way of putting that. That's a really good way of putting that. Yeah, Leia Plus says Captain America should not be sitting in therapy crying. The real Cap would be rallying that team together. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely. I don't argue that at all. I'm saying I could see somebody making a point for why he could do that as well, is help people emotionally, but no, he should be, especially in the film, he should be the one out there rallying and making a difference. Stupid, like, yeah, but when I crossed the bridge, I saw some whales. You don't see whales anymore. Like, shut up. Who are you? You're not Steve Rogers. Yeah, The Lion King was 100% based on Hamlet. I mean, not in every detail, obviously, as you say. Let's see. Leia Plus Size says, are you aware that Falcon Cap movie has been canceled? I did not know that because it did not do well. Disney is putting it off until 2025. Okay, so canceled or just put off? Because I would love for it to be straight up canceled, but I can't imagine them actually canceling. Like that's something that the progressive ideologues, that's just their baby. Having a black man yank the important Captain America mantle from the white man, that's just, right up the progressive ideologues, giddy stick. That's just everything that they want to do. That's the Miles Morales is Spider-Man and he's just Spider-Man. And it's not Spider-Boy, he's Spider-Man too, Um, it's the same kind of thing. So I can't imagine them laying off of it altogether, but I can definitely see, like you're saying, them putting it off or trying to wait till the right time or whatever. Yeah, it's just nonsense. And as we said before, it's such it angers me so much because I do love Steve Rogers, but also because I love Falcon. What an amazing freaking character. Falcon was awesome. And I actually wrote a chapter about Falcon in my heroic inspirations book that I did, and it was about him. Everything I said about Falcon, everything that made him special and made him so inspirational, is totally undone by the whole, no, I got the shield and I'll be Cap Falcon. It's just totally undone. The fact that he can exist next to a character like Steve Rogers, total aspirational, and yet hold his own, yet not be a sidekick. Falcon was never a sidekick to Captain America. He was always an equal with him, a partner. And somebody that sure learned from him, was inspired by him, sure, but also held his own, as a character and showed how you can, and that's a good lesson for all of us, how you can have heroes in your life and you can exist and work alongside those heroes, but you don't have to just be consumed by their shadow. You can stake out your own ground and be your own person, and still be inspired by other people. You don't always have to, there's an aspect in hero stories in which the student has to slay the master at some point. Not literally slay the master. That wouldn't make you a hero if you killed your own master, all the time. Obviously, no. But it's some idea, that in hero stories, the mentor at some point has to go off and die or something like that because the hero needs time to flex their own muscles and be challenged without the mentor's help, or without the their own hero's helper in some way. But Falcon was just always a character that even in the Marvel Cinematic Universe before ridiculousness of Endgame, he was still standing on his own, doing his own thing. He would joke and he would say things like, "Oh, I just do what he does, only slower." And that's funny, but that wasn't the case. When they're looking for Bucky and whatnot, Falcon's giving him some, kind of a voice of, "Hey, let's check this a little bit. Let's make sure we're really thinking through this." Doesn't disagree with him, doesn't try and fight him on it, but just a little bit of a voice of reason there. And as he says, I want to make sure because people that shoot at you tend to be shooting at me too. And it's just what a great friendship they had. Really great balance to Cap and Bucky's friendship. And again, that's why as a storyteller, as a writer, it's so infuriating to me that they would let that shield pass to Falcon instead of Bucky, because the way the story naturally comes together, that's how you really, if at some point Steve Rogers has to step down or whatever, you really let Falcon become his own man by taking on the mentor role at that point and helping Bucky be the next Captain America. That's where it is. That's how to make Falcon go full circle, and just what an amazing hero's journey and that. But they'll never see that because they just want the poster child. They just want the minority character in the Cap shield. Check my time here. Oh, going to wrap it up here in a moment. But okay, so you're clarifying for me, Leo. Plus size says Falcon Cap has been put off until 2025 because they want to fix it because it didn't test well and they fear it will fail. Oh, so they actually made it. Actually, I didn't even know this. I don't follow these things. They actually made most of the movie or are part of it. Wow. Yeah, who cares about that crap? But yeah, I'm glad you told me about that. Yes, yeah, I'm that in the dark about these things. Eldridge fan said, "How would you write Endgame?" Now that's a fascinating. That would take some heavy thought and a whole other video for me. I wouldn't. Here's all I can say right now. If I was to write Endgame, and I was on board like through Infinity War, I thought like, wow, you guys really kind of, obviously everybody was gut punched by that, but I had trust. I was like, okay, well, you guys clearly know what you're doing. You've clearly got these threads that you've been developing, but so many character progressions and storylines and threads, they just pretended they never, they just pretended they weren't even remotely doing anything with Hulk, in his storyline. They pretended they weren't even remotely doing anything with Thor in his storyline. They just dropped the ball in so many areas. So I would give satisfactory um, continuances to those character storylines that wasn't out of character. Definitely. I mean, even though I agree with people who say, Ragnarok had a lot of problems, and it certainly did, the overall trajectory of that character for Thor, finally realizing that he is the one to become the leader of his people, was brilliant. That's great. And taking them back to Earth and everything, that's all great. And then like, kidding, he has a nervous meltdown and becomes fat and abdicates his throne. Like, what? Oh, but that makes sense because you don't know, you never experienced that kind of trauma. Stop it. This is not a realistic drama. This is a movie about superheroes. Just drove me up the wall. All right, Studio Super for 9.99. Thank you, sir. Said beauty is a virtue, for it's an honest expression of that which is true. Comic women have the proportions they do because it's an honest expression of their femininity. Nowadays, they look androgynous. You're absolutely right. I love that meme that shows it's like, this is Barbie. It's like a picture of a Barbie doll from back in the days, 80s or whatever. She is an unfair representation, an unfair ideal of women proportions that little girls will never actually lead up to, and blah blah, all this kind of stuff. And then it said, "Oh, and this is He-Man." Like double standard much. It's there's nothing wrong with having idealized characters. That's part of the visual imagery. Owen Lister for 19.99. Thank you, Owen Lister. That was great. Appreciate that. So the shield being passed to Falcon is an insult to both Bucky and Sam. Couldn't agree with you more. Definitely. An insult to Bucky's character because he needed to change his identity to be more heroic. Absolutely. Totally agree with that. And Sam's character because it took away his identity. Yeah, that's a really good pithy way of putting it. You're right. It took away his identity as Falcon. It made him step into this somehow. Now he's like a racially controversial character, which was never part of his character. Just nonsense. Yeah. Really well put. I like that. Studio Super, thank you. Said, and they look androgynous because they try to play down those proportions. It ceases to be honest, and therefore it isn't beauty. Yeah, and again, that's now and I agree with you, but I want to specify too, when I'm talking about beauty and the symbolism, the idealized beauty, that is not in any way even remotely connected to finding real life human beings beautiful. As I say, hey, beauty comes in all shapes and sizes. Okay, no one's trying to say that real women need to be in this cookie cutter to really be thought of as beautiful. No, and those even cultural standards have changed throughout the ages to some degree, but there's still the elements of truth to them that don't change, which is the femininity. And yeah, beauty comes in all shapes and sizes, but when you're talking about visual representations, there are certain visual symbols that as human beings, it's just in our psyche that we're cued to know this or that about this character because of the way they're portrayed. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Nathaniel Zilsbo said the Zelda movie you said is going to be live action. Got it. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap up here because it's been about my hour, and it's about as long as I usually like to stream anyway. All I've got the stamina for here. My social energy meter is depleted, but I really do enjoy hanging out with you guys. And what a great conversation tonight. This is really good. I mean, I had my own points there, but you guys have brought up a lot of great topics that, I appreciate the super chats, but both in super chats and the regular chats there, I found a lot of great things to talk on. So we'll definitely do it again. Next Saturday, obviously we'll do it again. Keep these up, and I'll cut out some more videos from them and everything. But always have a great time with you guys. So appreciate it. that's all for now. But until next time. Oh yeah, Sound Engraver streaming tomorrow. I don't know if she said the time. 5:45 p.m. Eastern. Okay, yeah. So Sound Engraver stream tomorrow is going to be a really good one. She was telling me about the topic, and she's already got it set up, so it's a good one. So appreciate that. Thank you, Studio Super. Good night to you, Prof and Mrs. Prof. Thank you so much, Studio Super. Always appreciate your support. That's very very much appreciated. Appreciate that, man. All right. So thank you guys. Until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories about authentic masculine and authentic women characters that you love. Thanks for watching.